along those lines, I'm going to tell you, I have seen the future. Actually, I haven't. A friend of mine has. And so I'm going to tell you two stories. Our good friend Milt Doherty, Dr. Doherty is superintendent at Little River, just got back from South Korea. And he told me about visiting schools there. And they go to school, public school, during the day, just like our kids do. And they are really focused on standardized tests. But at 3 o'clock, they finish school, and they've got about 40 minutes, an hour to get to Hagwon, which is their evening school, and it's private. And there's 100 kids in a class, one teacher at the front of the room till 9 o'clock at night, totally focused on passing standardized tests. Wow. And see, that's our future. That's where we're headed. I was visiting with Anita Cochran, good friend of mine, the other day, and about this matter, had a conversation with a parent who was visiting their child's school. And the parent told me, they said, everything the teacher talks about is why it's so important because it's on a test. We're taking the first step to cramming for tests. And we don't go to the evening school, the private school, but everything we're doing in schools, more and more, is focused on a standardized state assessment. See, I see an incongruence there between what you're talking about, engaging kids in real world, real life kinds of behaviors and activities, versus let's get better at taking standardized tests. Now, I did see last week or the week before that Arnie Duncan, the Secretary of Education, said we've got to take a look at all this stuff that we're doing. We're actually going backwards. So maybe there is some hope. I'll have to see it to believe it. Me too. I think we're headed down the wrong path in education. We're testing kids to death, and the emphasis is on a standardized test. And we became the country we are through innovation and creativity. And I agree. And we're doing everything we can to kill those in our schools.
Right. Talking ourselves out of what we're best at.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. And we're not going to compete with South Korea when they're doing what they're doing on standardized tests. Well, no wonder they get the highest standardized test scores.
Well, I think of it like a river. We've got this river with this inertia. And there are people on the margins trying to grab the shore and saying, wait, let's get out of this thing. We're heading toward this waterfall of what? Mediocrity, that all of us are calculator databases that aren't as good as Google. I talk about our schools are creating middle managers waiting for permission to think. Yeah. That's what's happening. So the people that are on those fringes next to the shore, is Arnie Duncan including them in the conversation? How kaleidoscopic is his lens as he revisions this in the future? Because if it's tweaking, the inertia is going to keep pulling it right back, toward the waterfall. I think we got to get some big voices in there and trust those voices to know creativity, a whole new mind. Daniel Pink's book got a lot of people thinking, and he's not an educator, and there's those who turn their nose up at him because he's not an educator. I think there's a lot to be gained from that book because he's not an educator. But he's talking about how the Masters of Fine Arts might replace the MBA, and maybe should. That what we were good at is what you just said, creativity. The one thing that people have not been able to outsource so easily is
innovation.
We were amazing thinkers. We were constantly thinking of that crazy, counterintuitive thing that actually was the next new thing. But we're turning our kids into compliant thinkers, I'm afraid.
The other thing that I see related to that, some of our most energetic, creative teachers, I hear them saying, this isn't fun anymore. I'm not sure I want to do this anymore.
That scares me too.
And when we start losing that generation of innovative, creative teachers, and all we have are people that buy in to drill and kill, we're headed down the wrong path.
Right. I think, almost every audience I talk to, almost everyone agrees that what we're doing isn't the right thing. Some of them would say
I hear it everywhere.
Everywhere I go. So I'm not indicting. I would never indict the system. What the system gets told to do, the system does. Yeah. And then when we appear in the paper, if we don't do it well, we do it harder, and we do it better, we do it longer, because the way it is right now, if you don't do well on tests, they do the equivalent of taking you out to Colonial Center Town Square and put you in stockades and humiliate you and flog you in front of the community. Yeah. What an arrogant approach, to change. Can't we do better than that? And we all see these examples, but we need a path. We need someone who can light up a path.
And so, Kevin, when I hear you talk about the administrators that are blocking what's going on, I don't blame them. Because they show up in the newspaper for test scores, not for technology use.
That's absolutely right. But I think we can change that. And one of the things I tell audience is the some pig principle. Some pig. You got to do that for yourself. At a wedding reception, there are disposable cameras on every table. Why? Well, because accidentally someone's going to get a good
Somebody's
picture.
going to drop their
Someone's going to
microphone.
drop their mic or get a good picture. We've got ways to capture and archive the excellence that happens in digital education and in education in general, but we're too busy teaching to capture it. That's got to make headlines, and we're going to make those headlines ourselves because no one's bringing a camera from CNN. We're going to have to do it ourselves, and we have viral tools. We can get that word out there.
Except
That's
they're
one way.
blocked.
We have to do it from home, but we can still do it if we can capture it and get it done. And I know people out there that are trying. They're trying so hard, and my belief comes from seeing those people in numbers. But I want leadership to take a stand here. You know, and you see those innovative principals and administrators out there who are taking chances because in the first people who do it look like crazies. They always look like crazies until 10 years later, then everyone says they were doing it.
George Bernard Shaw. All great ideas began as blasphemy.
They have to.
Yeah.
Right? Or any new idea looks crazy next to what's been done. Yeah.
Hey, see you next time on What's Become Clear to Me.
Thanks for watching.